It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live
the Bostonian versus the Book. Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the Book.
Here he is, Matt Perot!
Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Yo, what's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into a Tuesday. A curveball being thrown at you guys today. It's a Bet Chris Arizona Tuesday. My name is Matt Peralta, and we are live for the Bostonian versus the Book every weekday right here on our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book, the same handle on X, Twitter, and we get replayed on Sports Grid TV each and every single weeknight, plus audio podcasts wherever you guys get your audio podcasts. Do you like the hat? I was having a conversation with a media member who is a TV guy who was claiming that, like, I can't wear whatever I want. I mean, we do different things because I'm on Sports Grid TV. I'm like, you can wear whatever you want on television now. He's like, no, you can't. I said, yes, I can. You can too. You can wear hats. You can wear beanies. You can wear whatever you want. People don't care. He's like, well, you do a podcast. I work in news. I'm like, yeah. It's part of the problem. Everybody's so uptight. I mean, Pat McAfee, I give Pat a ton of credit. He has changed the game on a lot of levels where what are we allowed to wear on television to be considered professional, right? I don't know. Maybe it's a Pittsburgh thing. It was Dave's big thing of, like, I can wear whatever I want whenever I want to wear it, and you guys can't stop me. And he did. On MLB Network and, massive platforms. Didn't matter. McAfee too, on the worldwide leader. So the hat today, it's because it's freezing in Vegas. I'm headed tomorrow to New Orleans, where it's going to be like 35 degrees at night in New Orleans. Like, they don't deal with that stuff down there very well. Like that environment, the French Quarter is not set up for freezing temperatures. And I've lived in the South. I know what it's like when there's no insulation on the pipes. You can have some big problems. Like, you can have some flooding, and you can have problems when you do have temperatures, approaching 32 degrees in the deep South, not just the South, but the deep South, like New Orleans. So, oh my, we got that to contend with. For all I can tell and what I've seen so far, it's going to be sunny. So it's not like it's going to be brutal in terms of like snowstorms or the ice. That storm is gone that you guys are now having to dig out of from most of the entire eastern seaboard. And it's weird to be sitting in Vegas. And yesterday it was 70 degrees, and I guess not 70. It was like 65 yesterday. And I'm looking at all of these videos from all these people on the East Coast, and you guys are completely buried. And now that storm is gone, and you have to figure out how in the hell you get the car out. How do you get, the ice to melt? And according to people that I've talked to who live in the Tennessee, Kentucky region, like, power is maybe a week out. Like, that's crazy that you guys could be without power for that long. I know Stormy at VSiN did a game over the weekend, and she has not been able to fly back to Vegas from Texas yet. She's been doing her show from hotel rooms that have power in Texas. So it has messed up all sorts of, the country is just dealing with all sorts of issues, and it's hard for us in Vegas to kind of understand it. It looks like a typical day for us. It's not that big of a deal, except this morning was cold. Like, it is cold here. And when we're talking about 38 degrees, 37 degrees in the morning, okay, like, I know that's not that big of a deal, but in the desert, there's no humidity. So it's a dry cold. I know it sounds weird, but it actually bites. When you go out in the first thing in the morning, you're like, oh my, it is cold today. So beanie on, sweatshirt on to keep myself warm. Where in the world is Adam Bjorn? I have no idea. I cannot wait to find out what part of the world. He's not in this. Wait, I think he's in this hemisphere, but he's not on this continent. He is. It's the middle of the night. He sent me a text message an hour ago and said, "Hey, I'm up. I want to come on the show today." I was like, done. Let's go, because I'm traveling tomorrow and it's a Bet Chris Arizona Tuesday today for us, as we'll go through everything happening with the Super Bowl and the early line movement. Bet Chris is back to 5. They were 4.5 yesterday. They're back to 5 for Seattle. So we'll find out where the early money is coming in at Bet Chris Arizona and what Adam thinks will be the closing number, although we will get to more on Thursday of next week, not this week, of next week, because we will be heading to Radio Row. We're going to be there. I call it Radio Row. It's called Media Row, whatever you want to call it. Thursday, Bet Chris Arizona will present the program from 10 to 12 Pacific time, 1 to 3 Eastern time, live from San Francisco. On Friday, Sim Harmon and Cut will sit in with us as well, coming up on Friday. Cannot wait to get over there. It's going to be a very fun couple of weeks for me, going to New Orleans tomorrow and then next week going to San Francisco. We're booking the guests. We're building the shows. It's going to be a ton of fun. Bet Chris Thursday, Cut on Friday with us live from Radio Row. We will be sporting cool hats. These are our Super Bowl hats. If you haven't picked one of those up, you can do so. They're on the front page. If you want a playoff version of the BVB hats that Corbin has created, we're going to do more sport-specific type of hats like this, but currently on the website, thebvbshow.com, to get to our store for that. So a lot of cool things happening, a lot of fun things happening for us, as we will be looking to talk to Adam Bjorn here in about 10 minutes. Before we do that, let's talk about the unlikely matchup for the Super Bowl, including the odds, which are really crazy to look at for what the Patriots and the Seahawks were before the year began. This is the most unlikeliest of Super Bowls. It is the opening line, taking a look at how unlikely this matchup is between the Patriots and the Seahawks. It's not just the fact that the Patriots were a long shot team, because they were 80-1 at most shops to start. Because of that reason, and we'll talk to Adam about this coming up in the next segment in like 10 minutes, because when you have people who are betting 80, 70, 60-1, right? They're not betting big numbers. This is the ultimate lottery ticket. $100, $500 to go and return big time money. The books, you have to take that into account when it comes to the number for Seattle and the Patriots, because how many people, how much money do you have sitting there on either the Seahawks or the Patriots from a liability standpoint? That factors into what side do you need, the dog or the favorite, coming up for the Super Bowl. It is really going to be interesting to see how people wind up betting for the Super Bowl, because this is long shot on long shot. Unlikely matchup by preseason odds in at least 50 seasons. 60-1, 70-1. 80-1 odds for the Patriots and the Seahawks to be playing in this game. And so from a book perspective, I am guessing that they have done very well, because when you take out the Chiefs, you take out the Bills, and you take out the 49ers, you take out the usual suspects, the ones that had the shortest of odds, the Ravens going into the season, right? That's where people's money went. Because if you had talked to people before the year and said the Patriots were making the Super Bowl, they would have either called you a homer or B, insane. You probably could have made a case for Seattle, but you would have to have been the biggest of Sam Darnold believers that what he did last year with the Vikings wasn't Kevin O'Connell, that it actually was Sam Darnold and the way he played last year was going to translate into Clint Kubiak's offense, and that the Seahawks were going to be right here. And you were buying into the idea that it was not a fluke last year for Sam Darnold. And so we've done the same exact thing here now with this offense and these players around him, with Kenneth Walker and JSN and the rest of the offensive weapons that Seattle has. I mean, 60-1, that was that's a pretty typical number for Seattle given what they did last year. So this matchup and how improbable this matchup is for these two teams, our friend Ben Fawkes from Yahoo Sports wrote the following. In the months leading up to the season, there were a variety of teams that bettors were wagering to win the Super Bowl. The Patriots and the Seahawks weren't very high among them. Seahawks 60-1 in week 1 at BetMGM. Patriots 80-1, and there weren't a lot of believers either. Seattle had the 9th fewest wagers to win the Super Bowl at BetMGM. The Patriots had the 11th fewest at 1.3%. That makes this year's title game the most unlikely matchup by preseason odds in at least the last 50 years, according to sports odds history. The closest approximation was all the way back in 1982 when the Niners played the Bengals. The Niners closed as a 1-point favorite and won the game 26-21. That was 50-1 and 60-1. When you couple this with the fact that Indiana won the national championship, you have to wonder how sports fans are going to handle this new world. I mean, are they going to be okay with the fact that we're not seeing the traditional? We're not seeing the teams that the public, when they watch the sport, what the public perceives as the best teams. The perception that Indiana didn't belong, or the perception that Miami didn't belong, the perception that the Patriots don't belong, or the Seahawks don't belong. These are all fandom reactions, because on the playing surface, Indiana won every game that they played. They ran the table and won the national championship, and people still didn't really believe that Indiana was the best team. The Patriots and the Seahawks both have been of the leaders in the NFL for wins all year long, and yet people are still trying to push the narrative that neither team, and really it's more on the Patriots side than the Seattle side, but the Patriots don't belong. 17 wins, not enough. We're going to find out with the handle for this game, because the expectations for this game are pretty high. $1.75 billion forecasted to be bet on the Super Bowl. $1.75 billion. Now, some of that comes down to the fact that people bet it anyway. Like, they always bet it. Regardless of who's in the game, they're always going to be betting it. But that's still a really big number. That's a really big number. And the projection is because of the fact that prediction markets are quote unquote legal in states like Texas and California, that's going to drive the quote unquote legal U.S. betting market, in quotation marks, legal, going to be driving this number really, really high. It's going to be a very big game to be bet, which makes total sense, right? I mean, that should happen. It's the last football game of the year. It's the biggest football game of the year. It's the biggest TV show of the year. It's huge. So we should see massive amounts of money being bet here on this game. But there are some numbers, and the Action Network has pointed out some of the numbers that are worth taking a look at. In the last 50 years, there were 11 teams. The Patriots are the 11th team to reach the conference championship game with preseason odds of 80-1. 4 of those 11 made the Super Bowl. They went 1-2 straight up. Only the 1999 Rams were able to win this game after being an extremely long shot to get here to win the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of comparisons between the 1999 then St. Louis Rams and the Patriots, because it is wild when you take a look at the way the Patriots schedule and how similar it was to the 99 Rams. That team was quarterbacked by Kurt Warner. That team was considered the greatest show on turf, right? everybody talked about how great they were, and they won the Super Bowl, and they almost won it again the next year, except the Patriots beat them. That's been sort of this theme here for the Patriots, taking on teams that were the defending champs. They did it against the Seahawks. The Seahawks had won the championship the previous year, and then 11 years ago, Malcolm Butler stepped inside of that passing lane and picked off a pass that should never have been thrown, but was thrown by Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll instead of giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. So the Patriots stopped that. They also stopped the Rams in 2001, but 2000 after the Rams had won the championship in 1999. Seattle and New England both are teams that did not make the playoffs last year. In fact, this is the first since 2003, the Patriots and the Panthers, where we have a Super Bowl where both teams missed the playoffs the previous season. This feels a lot like, to me, this feels a lot like that Super Bowl. Now, that was an interesting matchup because of the fact that the Patriots were still, that was their third championship, right? The 03-04 year. And so the Patriots had already become a thing. They've already won 2 championships. They're going for their dynasty. They're 3 and 4 years. And so, but the Patriots had missed the playoffs the year before. Remember, the Patriots won it in 01. They won it in 02. They missed the playoffs in 03, and they won it in 04. So that takes some steam out of this game because people did not anticipate the Patriots and this version of the Seahawks to be there. We have to go back to Super Bowl 16. That was the only game featuring 2 teams that entered the year at 50-1 odds or higher. It's a long time ago. We're in number 60 now. This is Super Bowl 60. We got to go back to number 16 for that to happen. So, in terms of handle, I think people are going to bet it. I think in terms of handle, I think people are going to be excited about it. I'm glad you followed me. Kathleen, welcome. Good job following on Seattle and New England futures. I appreciate you following that. That's good. I've set up, if you did bet what I bet, I have a 14-1 ticket on Seattle. I have an 11-1 ticket on the Patriots. It doesn't matter who wins. I just get to have some fun in the prop market, bet the over in the game, and just watch it play out. So I don't have to do anything from a stress perspective. I'll give you my prediction later, next week in San Francisco, but I don't have to do a whole lot. If you do want some extra play, I still think the Patriots in the first half, we bet it in the championship game. It pushed. I still think this is a great bet. Money line first half Patriots. Drake May 18-1-2 on a first half money line in his last 21 starts. The Patriots are 15-0-2 over the last 17 starts this season. 15-0-2 is 15-0-2 in the Patriots first half money line. They start off well. Why? Josh McDaniels, right? So it was a 7-7, and the Patriots had a kick at the end, sort of the Broncos for that matter, but they both missed field goals inside the last minute of the first half. But the Patriots had a kick to potentially win, to go 16-0-1 on the first half money line. Instead, both teams missed it, so it was a push. So 15-0-2. But I think if you're looking for some fun bets, that's one way of playing this game. First half Patriots. We'll get into that. We'll get into the whole prop market. We'll talk about it all. But let's find out where our guy is. I don't even know where he is, and I don't even know what time it is as to where he is. Where is Adam Bjorn? All right, my friend. I'm guessing it's the middle of the night. Welcome back to the show. Where are you?
It is the middle of the night. It's actually 2:19 a.m. here in Manila.
So you said, I'll take people behind the scenes. You sent me a text message an hour ago, and you're like, I'm up. Let's talk.
Yeah. I was still awake. So if you needed anything, just holler out.
It's tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. So is this business or pleasure? Why are you over there?
This is business. We have a trading team in Manila. I did night shifts for probably 15, 20 years. In Australia, I was doing US sports. I moved to Jamaica and I was doing Australian and European sports. And when I first went to Bet Chris to do some trading and risk management, I was like, I never want to do night shifts again. How do we solve this? So we built a team about 8-9 years ago in the Philippines. And yeah, so a lot of us don't have to do night shifts anymore. We built a robust team 100 plus traders that are just very efficient and on top of things. And you can kind of wake up in the morning without all that stress that we had for many, many years.
So, like, what's your default time zone? Like, what's your body clock? Because the amount of time zones you were in, I get why you're awake, because I'm assuming, like, it's the middle of the day Michigan time for your body clock, no?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was in Barcelona Thursday, Miami Friday, San Fran Sunday, Manila Monday. And a lot of people say, what about jet lag? And it's something that I've argued for probably 20, 30 years. I don't know what jet lag is. I don't understand what jet lag is. I don't know if I'm just always tired or always busy or what it is. But I've never, really felt like I get taken out for days that I hear these other people speak of. So, I got in here, I don't know what day it is. It's Tuesday, 9 o'clock Monday night. I had our Prime Suspects podcast yesterday at 3 a.m. I was up at 8 a.m. for a meeting. I was in the office for a big chunk of today. Went out to some cockfighting tonight, and then got back, and yeah, here we are.
Wait, what? What? Where are you going? Hold on. Time out.
So it just so happened, as I was in the office today, they're saying the best of the best cocks and breeders of cocks are in Manila having the World Championships tonight. And so we went there and we watched about 20 fights. We placed our bets.
Wow.
We enjoyed the time. And yeah, that was the evening.
That is amazing. Did you do well?
No.
How's the handicap going on that?
No, it didn't do well. So I've been to them 3 times. First time was Philippines about 16, 17 years ago. Went on a hot streak, won like 13 or 15 fights. Then my son and I went to them in Jamaica, and we were the bookies, hand-to-hand betting. We were giving away money as we were walking to the car because it was dark and we needed to get home safely. So we were like giving away. And then tonight I actually flew my son in from Australia so we could catch up for a week. And went again tonight. And we were kind of hosted by a group, and I would have loved to have been the bookie in this situation, but I was kind of just having to follow them and let them do what they were doing and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that don't really like that stuff and have strong opinions, but it was a bit of fun. We had a good night out and, when in Rome.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing. So it's one. So, I know it's huge over there.
I will add, and I didn't know this, but we were at the stadium where the Thriller in Manila was held, and they actually had posters of Frazier and Ali there as well, because Manny Pacquiao put on a 50th anniversary last year at the stadium. So we went to see fights in the stadium that Ali and Frazier fought in 51 years ago. So.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's get to the game because it's early and we'll talk about it a ton next week in San Francisco. But we do have a little bit of a line move with you guys because yesterday you were at 4.5 for Seattle. This morning you're at 5. So what action did you guys take early? What number did you open up at? And where has the money been taken?
Yeah, so since it opened up, we opened 4.5, went to 5, went to 5.5, back to 5, down to 4.5, and now back up to 5. On the overall money, there is a lot of money on this game. People are betting it way earlier than I suspected, but it's super well balanced. And then on the master chart, we are 94% of the master money is on the Seahawks.
Wow.
However, when I sort of dug into it, about 75% of that is at -3, where someone laid a big number, and -2.5, where they laid like 85 cents. So there is some picking money around the -5, -4.5, and there's really just dribs and drabs on the Patriots from the Masters on the spread right now.
How much does the future market dictate what happens to you guys from a line movement perspective? If you're getting heavy on one side, does that future money, does that matter? Because by accounts that we've read earlier, there wasn't a lot of future money on the Patriots or Seattle. Are you guys light in the future market?
So going into last week, all 4 teams were big winners, and these 2 were right up the top of the tree. So that money's already been put in the pocket, forgotten about, and just dealing with the game, because it just so happened that both these teams were big odds at the start of the season, shortened in a manner where people didn't really want to jump into them at any point in time. So yeah, it was on the future side, really good book. Had the 4 all winners last week for good amounts as well. So just sort of, dealing with it in that manner.
What do you think? And we'll talk about it next week, obviously, because we have time. But do you think that we're going to see early money and then that will lighten it up late? Or are we going to see just consistent action all the way through? And this number is going to ping pong around between 5.5 and 4.5 for the next week and a half.
Yeah, well, the thing is 5.5, 4.5, 5.5, it could ping pong around all the time. It's not, any sort of serious number or any danger where a bookie's going, oh, no, I don't want to be stuck with 5.
Yeah.
While, the numbers aren't what they used to be. This is going to be played as tight as possible, field goals if needed, overtime if needed, and all those kind of fun things. So I imagine this will keep sort of bopping around for it. But yeah, I was surprised. And I was surprised last week, like how much money when we spoke Friday, like how much money there was Friday, and then that just upped Saturday and then Sunday, and the live betting was enormous. But yeah, this one just feels like they're, coming very early but very consistently. So it just seems like they'll keep chipping away at it.
The total now at 46, 45.5, I'm assuming was the open for you guys. We saw that a couple days ago with you guys, or yesterday. We saw that with you guys. What are you seeing? And is it consistent with the money that you're seeing from the side, or are we seeing more or less money on the total right now?
So we actually opened at 47. Went to 46.5 pretty quickly, 46, and then it popped up for a few moments at the 45.5. We got 62% of the money is on the under, 78% of the master money is on the under, and looking at it is majority of it was under 47, under 46.5. Bit the other way buying at the over 45, 45.5, but 46 is really not a lot there.
Interesting. What do you think that number closes at? Because obviously 43, 44, key number is up to 47. Is it the same thing with like 4.5 and 5.5, or we're just going to go back and forth and kind of ping pong around because there's no real key number between 44 and 47?
I imagine so, but when I saw it originally, I thought it felt a little light.
Me too. Yep, I bet. Right.
Yeah. Being a Super Bowl, the way these things play out, I mean, usually you'd come into it thinking, the thing should be mid-40s, high 40s, and they'd come out with 53, 53.5, stuff like that. So I'm kind of surprised that they've, got it at this number with how these games can sort of blow open at the end and things like that as well. So I guess with the live betting and the expectations that the first quarter, first half are kind of probably, played tight, then, there's opportunity for that number to sink and then blow out and those things. So maybe they just look at it different these days.
Yeah, 45.5. I bet over. I'm with you. I already bet it. It's the first bet I made because I think it does. I think it is light. I think the Rams showed that you can score on these Seahawks, on this Seahawks defense. I think the Patriots are going to be able to put some points up on Seattle. And equally, I think Seattle is going to be able to score on the Patriots. I haven't ever asked you this question, and I'm curious. Do you like outdoor sports or do you prefer domes?
Oh, no, I'm outdoors. I like to see the blue sky and whatnot and have a bit of weather throw in occasionally. Not the Chicago game weather, but I don't mind a bit of, alternate sort of implications. I think last week was a good example. The models and that can't read the snow blizzards coming in the second half, and that's the opportunity for bettors. And the smart bookies can kind of play that game as well. So I like the elements. I guess that's why I like golf in Britain and Ireland instead of, the pitch and putt games in the US. So, weather's a great part of sports betting.
I agree. And I think not just from a viewership standpoint, from a betting perspective. And we talked about it yesterday, but like the football that we're watching in America, there's this huge rush to have domes. And we've seen a lot of prominent media members say that this is why the NFL needs to be played in domes. If they actually decided, I doubt they're going to, but there is a push now to play the championship games on a neutral field. How would that impact the way you guys book it if we're playing 3 games on neutrals instead of 1 in the playoffs?
Again, you're going to factor in the home field advantage, so you take that out, and then suddenly it's neutrals. I mean, they plan these things well ahead, and I think that the fact that there is an opportunity for, a random team to get a home Super Bowl every so often that it's in their city. Yes, some cities don't get that opportunity. Others get it more often than others. Like, I guess, Miami back in the day sort of got a lot of Super Bowls down their way. But for me, teams play all season for this opportunity. Those ones that know they have the Super Bowl at home probably dig in a little deeper to try and get that home game. It's just part of what it is.
Does the threat, and I don't think it's going to, but like the fact this game is potentially, it's outdoors, it's in Northern California, not Southern California, that weather might be a questionable come next weekend. How does that have to be factored in to a total perspective if there is going to be the potential for rain?
Well, I mean, it's just an element. It's kind of handicapping the thing. Someone sort of mentioned the other day about having people on, at these games being able to see the weather come in and all those aspects, the wind. I mean, Wrigley Field in baseball, years ago, people there. I mean, we used to have somebody, or at least a contact or a groundsman at cricket test matches because the rain was worth so much. So when you could see that rain coming in, there was value having someone sitting in the ground, had some meteorology background or access, and would even go there 3-4 days before to understand where the weather was at and potentially, brought the draw into play. So weather's just part of the, the handicapping procedures. So, it's football. Come on. Like, it's kind of meant to be played in the rain and the mud and all those kind of things. That's what we grew up on. So, if they play it all indoors, then isn't that arena football, not the actual NFL? So, I'm sort of old school to probably a fault where there's just things that we grew up on that should be left alone and just let them play out. Yes, protect the players, protect the quarterbacks, all that kind of jazz, but let them play. Let them play the games.
If the Buffalo Bills built a stadium that does not have a roof, nobody should have a roof. The Bears, the Browns, the Chiefs, like all these new stadiums that they're building to have domes, I think is such a mistake and such a loss of what the game is supposed to be. I'm okay with gimmicky things like Indianapolis or Minnesota. Like once in a while, you have a couple of domes, but not everybody. I mean, football's not meant to be played indoors, and we're way too many domes.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't just that lose their massive advantage that they just have had for so many years and just building their team around that and almost hoping that they get that weather when it comes December and January when they're in that situation. I think that, teams need all the advantage they can play into at times, and that's just another one of them.
Yeah, Chicago basically, they had a home playoff game against the Rams, and the weather, they lost in overtime, but they had a chance. If Caleb doesn't get picked off in overtime, they had the football with a chance to go down and kick a game-winning field goal, and that's why you play all year long, to get that game in your building at home, to have that advantage over the Rams. So I don't get it. I know having a Super Bowl is great and all, but like consistently over the course of 20, 30 years, however long that stadium's going to be around for, to play in a dome, I think is just it's a huge mistake. It makes it boring with betting. I love betting win games. I love betting weather games. Like it's just a lot of fun when you have that added element. Like you mentioned, Wrigley Field with the Cubs. Like it's cool. Which direction the wind blowing, in or out? Like you got to go and look at it and try to handicap it. So I love it. I don't fully get the whole push for the NFL, but from a betting perspective, I think it'd be a huge mistake. Speaking of not mistakes, but speaking of the betting perspective, what do you perceive for this game with the Patriots and the Seahawks, just overall from an interest standpoint? Do you think it's going to be on par, it's going to be big, or could it be a bit depressed because of the two teams that are in it?
I think it's somewhere sort of in the mid-range to higher. It's not the low end where, what the NBA playoffs finals were a little bit, where people were sort of going, well, what do we want to watch these two teams for? I think the Patriots, have kind of got that element of, they're back, and they've got that following on and this is kind of, this is where it's always good with East and West. You'll have all your East Coast kind of supporting the Eastern Coast team, or they're like, screw that, I want the West Coast team because my East Coast team didn't make it, and then vice versa on the West Coast as well, all those supporting that side. So I think this one will have decent viewership. I think it's going to be a good game, potentially has, the ability to be a really good game, some back and forth and points on the board. So You know, I know there's been mention of the halftime show and all these other different little things along the way, but I think based on last week, this is the best matchup to have come out of last week's 2 games.
I would agree. Do you think people are going to hate bet against the Patriots? It feels like everybody wants the Patriots to lose, and I feel like you could be seeing some action, people just betting against the Patriots because they hate them.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I was on the wrong side of Brady for a long time until he actually, won me a lot of money when I was on Tampa Bay the year he won there. So I'd sort of forgiven him sort of 80% of the way. But yeah, I think Patriots, Red Sox, once they kind of won it and broke those streaks, it's like, screw them. They've had enough. Move on.
12 Super Bowls, Adam. When I saw them in 86 lose to the Bears, I thought the Patriots would never win one. And I thought that was it. And then in 96, they went and they lost to the Packers and Brett Favre. And I thought they'll never win one. The fact that they're playing for their 7th championship in my lifetime doesn't make sense to anybody who grew up outside of Boston. Like we don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to us.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with something similar, losing 4 Super Bowls in the Aussie rules in 6 years as a teenager, and kind of got to the point where whenever I bet them, they'd lose. Whenever I bet against them, they'd win. And then by the time I'd moved to Jamaica and kind of lost a bit of contact with it, they won 3 or 4 in like 6 or 7 years. And it was like, what the heck?
Mikey's got a question because I've been DMing with Mikey about this because my girlfriend she's not a big sports fan. But immediately when this popped, when the All Blacks were coming to DC, she sent me a note and said, I want to go to this in April. What makes this such an amazing event to go to? And are you going to go to it in April when they play in DC?
So that's funny because there was a conversation just yesterday about is the rugby league going back to Vegas, which they are in, I believe, February going back there, which I was surprised at how much hype and build up that got there last year. Yep. Now with the rugby union, All Blacks, pretty much the top team in rugby union for a very, very long time, kind of the one that everyone sort of pitted himself against. So yeah, I'm surprised that they're bringing it over this side, but that's just the way that all these games are going. I mean, everyone's trying to move their sports into other parts of the world. You got a massive expats communities in the US, plus US just consume everything. So if you can get your sport into kind of the niche of the US and get a following and whatnot, it can just add, so much revenue, so much sort of visibility on it as well. So I haven't seen the game, didn't know it was on, but interested in seeing who are they playing?
I don't actually know. I just know that they're coming over and they're playing, and the conversation was it's a cultural phenomenon beyond just a sporting event when they come over here to play. And so it's something that has to be seen, forget the game itself, but the actual stuff all around the All Blacks is what makes it such a significant thing. Is that fair?
Yeah, just the intro. Being in a stadium, watching the All Blacks do a haka is worth the admission fee right there. There you go. That's exactly what it is. There's national anthems around the world, when you go to Olympics and things like that. There's certain ones that sort of, chill the hairs on your arms and stuff like that when they sort of finish. The haka in the rugby union and when those island nations do it, but in particular when the All Blacks do it, is just one of those moments that is just, again, worth the admission fee and the experience.
All right, cool. I'll have to go. It's in April in DC. It's a bucket list thing. I've been told that I have to experience it. So very well might be heading to DC to check that out. Adam, thank you. We will see you in San Francisco next Thursday, a week from this Thursday. We'll see you live in person. The guest list, I'll send you some other options. We got some good people stopping by on Thursday to chit chat with us for football. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying up really late. Get some sleep, and we'll talk to you in a week in San Francisco.
All right. Cheers, Matt, and see you then. Thanks.
That is Adam Bjorn. Oh my gosh. In a middle of the night in Manila, joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book on a Bet Chris Arizona Tuesday. Good stuff with that. Looking forward to seeing him coming up in San Francisco. Once again, Thursday's show being brought to you by our friends at Bet Chris Arizona. Friday's show being brought to you by our friends at Cut. That will be happening next week in San Francisco. I talked to our friends at Sports Grid today. We lined everything up. Looking forward to doing that. Very nice of you, Thomas. Appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Yes, I would agree. Chicago Kristen, his accent's phenomenal. It's so good. It's a nice change from mine too. So it's a nice change of pace to listen to him, to his Australian accent come on and talk. And so he'll be with us on Thursdays. You'll get a whole 2 hours of Adam Bjorn. We have announced the Devin Hester interview on Thursday. There will be others that we'll be adding to the show coming up here on that. Yes, Sonic, the shows in San Francisco will be shown on Sports Grid. Yes, Thursday and Friday. No, they will be. I mean, it won't be the full show. We're doing a 2-hour show, but it'll be replayed on Sports Grid. It just won't be. I'm doing the show from the Sports Grid set or the Sports Grid broadcast location. There won't be a set for Sports Grid, but I'm doing BVB from their table, I guess is the best way of describing it, at the Super Bowl. So yes, the shows will be shown on Sports Grid on Thursday and Friday on the typical replay like it usually is. The Monday show is shown on Tuesday overnight Eastern time. The Thursday show is Friday mornings. The Friday show is Saturday morning, and so on, because it airs at 1:00 Eastern time. So that's the next day that the show will come up and air. Let's talk about what happened last night. A little college basketball. All right, what happened last night? That should have been said last night, not this weekend. Sorry. For last night, number 1 Arizona hanging on. They covered the 1.5 point number against BYU. A furious charge by the Cougars in the last 2 minutes of that basketball game almost tripped up Arizona. They needed a block shot coming down the stretch and a couple of free throws at the end to win the game, 83-80. It was a sweat for me. I laid the 1.5 and we got it. So Arizona stays undefeated. Nebraska plays against Michigan tonight. More on that in a second. Michigan with 1 loss, Nebraska with 0 losses. Miami of Ohio is also undefeated. They have survived a couple of scares recently, an overtime game last week. So we got 3 teams in college basketball that are still undefeated. Nebraska could go down tonight. More on that game in a little bit. Arizona survived. And we'll see what Miami, Ohio looks like. They could run the table. I mean, when you play in the mid-major ranks, you can run the table a little easier than in the Big Ten, just given what that schedule looks like for Nebraska. It's not going to be easy at all. But speaking of college, in college football, the CFP, this happened yesterday, really like Sunday, because Friday was the deadline for expansion for the college football playoff. We are not getting an expansion. In fact, we are staying at 12, but we're going to change the auto bid. As Yahoo Sports wrote this morning, the biggest change will give the power back to the conference championship games, which I am in love with. In 2005, it was the 5 highest ranked conference champions earning automatic bids to the playoffs. This year, it was Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, James Madison, and Tulane. That's because Duke, which beat a top 15 ranked Virginia team in the ACC championship game, was unranked and behind 2 of group of 5 teams. Now, the 4 automatic bids will go to the conference champions of the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12, meaning Duke would have qualified for the playoffs if this year's rules were happening last year. A 5th automatic bid will be given to Notre Dame if they're ranked outside or inside the top 12, which is kind of a joke. 1 bid remained for the highest ranked group of 6 champion each season, which now includes the revamped Pac-12. That's why it's group of 6, because the new look, the Mountain West Light Pac-12, is now going to have a shot at an automatic bid. The biggest thing is the fact that the Irish, if they're ranked in the top 12, they're in, period. So if they're having a good season and they're ranked in the top 12, they're in. All right, fine. If I have to allow that in order to get the conference championship game to be a true auto bid, I'm fine with it. Okay. If you win your conference championship game, you should be in the playoffs, period. If you're one of the big 4, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC, if you're one of the big 4, you should 100% get in to the college football playoffs. Like, I don't think that should be argued. I think that game has to mean something. That game has to have a ton of gravity. Otherwise, why are we playing it? So the fact that Duke was not in, but Tulane was, and Duke was not in, but James Madison was, and they both got smacked in their first game. I don't know if Duke would have been better or worse, but if you're an ACC champion, if you're holding the ACC championship trophy at the end of the season, you must get into a playoff. Otherwise, that playoff does not have the same weight to me. So I believe divisions matter. I believe your conference championship regular season matters. And I believe your tournament matters. Now, for football, it's one game, but the same thing applies for college basketball, right? You win your college basketball conference tournaments, you're into the NCAA tournaments. You win the automatic bid. So we have to carry that over to college football. Otherwise, I think it's a massive mistake to even play the game because you're going to hurt your conference. And Miami got in over Duke. Miami did not win. And if Miami had won the national championship without winning their conference championship, that's a big problem to me. Like, that's just bad. Okay. So to me, I just don't understand why you would do that. So I am really interested to see how this plays out next year with Notre Dame, because it could create some controversy if the Irish are ranked 11th or 12th. If the Irish are in the top 10, no one's going to argue they belong as a playoff team. But if the Irish are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, if they're like right on that cut line, on the bubble of getting in, there will be controversy. People will point out that, it's tell the Irish to join a conference, because then we don't have this conversation, because we're constantly making concessions for Notre Dame. Like, we are constantly making sure the Irish will be given as much preferential treatment as we can create in college football. And I'm not an Irish fan. I'm not an Irish graduate. I get it. They're the richest, deepest pocket endowment in college sports. So that's why I get it. You have to make sure that those people that have deep pockets and big money people can get their team into the playoffs. So that's why they do what they do. But I still think that the Irish being independent in 2026 is ridiculous. They should be, and they aren't for every other sport. It's just football. Like, if you can go into a conference for college basketball, why can't you go into a conference for college football? And it's never really made a whole lot of sense to me, but it does put more pressure on the rankings on the committee as to where they rank Notre Dame to make sure they're in the top 12 so they get into the college football playoff for the ratings, for the alumni, for everything. So, but if I have to give up that concession, if I got to give the Irish that in order to guarantee that if you win a conference championship game, you are into the playoff, fine. I'm willing to do that. What are you guys asking me in the chat? If I ever met Tom Brady? That's the Brady we're talking about, right? Tom Brady? No, I've interviewed Tom Brady in press conferences. I've never sat down one-on-one to interview Tom Brady, and I've never met Tom Brady like shaking his, oh, hold on. That's not true. I have met Tom Brady. Yes, I have met Tom Brady. It was really brief, but I have shook Tom Brady's hand. Yes, that has happened. Yes. But I've interviewed him in press conferences as well. So the answer to that question is, have I met him? Not really. Have I shook his hand? Yes. So Marsha Brady? No, but we are going to talk about Joe Brady. Joe Brady is part of our Jump Down the Rabbit Hole, brought to you by our friends at Rabbet. All right, it's time to jump down the rabbit hole with our friends at Rabbet. You guys can get 5 free Rabbet cash when you sign up using the code Rabbet5. That's RABBET5. Rabbet is the first true peer-to-peer sports picking marketplace. They think of themselves as the Venmo for sports takes. You have your group chats and your trash talk, and Rabbet let you take that into real action. They got rid of the house entirely. So instead of fighting an algorithm designed to take your money, you can create the offer, set the line, and challenge your friends directly. It's social, it's fair, without the heavy vig. It's the only place where you can truly make your hunches happen. Check out Rabbet. They're designed to let you enjoy the fun of beating up on your friends, and use that code Rabbet5, RABBET 5 for 5 free Rabbet cash when you sign up at Rabbet. So let's talk about Joe Brady. He got the job today for the Buffalo Bills. I don't understand this. I am completely confused by why the Bills fired Sean McDermott. So we're going to look at the coaching searches. So before this morning, we had 3 teams that were open: the Bills, the Raiders, and the Browns. The Bills today made the announcement that they're going to elevate Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator, and make him now the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. What are we doing? I don't understand. Do these teams not have any plans when they fire their coaches? Because it doesn't feel like they have any plan when they fire their coaches. So the Ravens went ahead and fired John Harbaugh and replaced him with a relatively unknown, a guy who might come in and do good things, but we don't really know yet what will happen. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers separated, call it a retirement, call it a forced retirement, call it a firing, whatever you want to call it. And Mike McCarthy is now the head coach there. If you're going to move off of head coaches like the Raiders did and the Browns did, don't you need to have a really clear idea as to who exactly is getting the job? And shouldn't it be an upgrade? Automatically upgrade? Shouldn't you be able to say, this is why we made the move? And you can say that in 1 year, the Raiders were such a mess under Pete Carroll with his 2 kids coaching the offense and the offensive line being so bad, being coached by one of his sons, that you couldn't just fire the kids because the dad's not going to fire his kids. So you got to fire everybody and you got to start over again if you're the Raiders. The Browns fired Kevin Stefanski, a 2-time coach of the year. And look at who's been interviewed by the Raiders and the Browns. Joe Brady off the table. Jeff Hafley off the table. Maybe Clint Kubiak, but they got Clay, his brother, to be interviewed as well. Mike McDaniel off the table. Jesse Minter off the table. Kevin Stefanski off the table. I mean, these are all guys. They're interviewing the same people as everyone else in Vegas. And they're not, as of right now, they have not landed anyone. Maybe it's Davis Webb, now that he's available, the Broncos coach who's like 12 years old, who could get the job. You want Matt Nagy? You want Mike LaFleur? Vance Joseph? Like, these are just not hires that make you feel like the Raiders had a plan when they fired Pete Carroll. The same thing can be said about the Browns. Look who the Browns have hired or have interviewed for their opening. Mike McDaniel, gone. Jesse Minter, gone. Grant Uditsky withdrew his name. Same thing for Mike McDaniel. They withdrew their name from consideration. Tommy Reese got hired by the Falcons. He's off the board. I mean, the Browns fired a 2-time coach of the year who then went and got a job with the Atlanta Falcons, and they don't have a head coach. There's 2 teams without head coaches who both fired established head coaches, guys that knew what they were doing. Now, I didn't like Pete Carroll either. I thought Pete Carroll should have been fired, and he was. I don't think Kevin Stefanski should have been fired, but I mean, I get it. Like, you're in a division where you want to keep up, and with the Ravens changing coaches and with the Steelers changing coaches, it's a fine time for the Browns as well. If you have the right person in mind, if you have somebody who you know you want to hire. And it doesn't feel like the Browns or the Raiders really have a solid idea as to who they want to hire. And the same thing goes for the Bills. Because one of the reasons why you would fire Sean McDermott was because it's the definition of insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And this franchise under Sean McDermott went to over 9 years, never went to a Super Bowl. And now Drake May, in his second year, with Mike Vrabel's first year as a head coach in the division, they're in the Super Bowl. And they're not going anywhere because the Patriots have a ton of cap space next year. The Patriots are going to be upgrading the defensive pass rush. I guarantee it. They're going to be in the market for an elite pass rush. They're going to be in the market for a lockdown corner opposite of Christian Gonzalez. And they're going to try to add wide receiver talent in the free agent market and through the NFL draft. Patriots are just going to get better, not worse. So I get why there's pressure on Buffalo because maybe what the Chiefs have done and maybe Eric Bieniemy coming back is going to reinvigorate this offense for Kansas City and bring back the glory days of Patrick Mahomes. But you have to be concerned about that if you're the Bills. The Ravens get a new head coach in Jesse Minter. We'll see what he winds up doing, but you still have Lamar Jackson unless they trade him this offseason. So I get why you would fire Sean McDermott. What I don't understand is why you would hire and elevate the offensive coordinator who was under fire for most of the year because fans did not like what the offense looked like. So essentially what you're saying is that the offensive game plan for Buffalo was fine. It was all the talent. It's all on the players. It's not on the offensive coordinator. Not at all. I don't know. I find that to be a little bit ridiculous. I don't think that's real. I don't think that's true. And to change the voice in the locker room, to change up and bring in a new idea, a whole new set of standards to bring that in. So what did Sean McDermott do really? Because what you're telling me, Buffalo, is that the culture for the Bills is fine, that the current coaching staff is not a problem. Everyone can keep their job because if you're Joe Brady, you're not going to blow out everyone. You're not blowing out the defensive coaching staff. You're not blowing out the offensive coaching staff. Everyone pretty much stays as is except for Sean McDermott. He's out. So what you're saying to the public and to the fan base is that it's Sean McDermott, that he was the problem. Not Brandon Beane, the general manager, who got elevated, who was made president, who got a raise after they fired Sean McDermott. Not him. He's fine, even though he's the one that built that roster without any real talent on offense from a receiver standpoint. That with Josh Allen, you're expecting him and James Cook to do everything. It's a really interesting statement that the Buffalo Bills made today about Sean McDermott. And you got to wonder, with Sean McDermott being open, I thought Sean McDermott coming to Vegas would be a decent move. I thought bringing him in and bringing his defensive acumen and bringing a guy who hopefully will be able to work with a number one pick quarterback and bring in a good offensive coordinator and run with Brady to go ahead and try to get the Raiders back on track. It's going to take some time. The Raiders aren't a one cycle, one draft pick, one free agency type of run about being back. So I'll be very curious to see, yes, they just wanted Sean out. And if you hear the owner and the GM at that press conference announcing the firing of Sean McDermott, they pretty much said that. That they were criticized. Sean McDermott criticized Brandon Beane for what he did, for who he drafted, for the roster he built, right? I mean, there was all sorts of smoke around these guys not getting along, but it is remarkable that we are now going to sit here and we're going to 100% say the Buffalo Bills and this decision to go ahead and fire Sean McDermott was justified. I don't understand. Yeah, it was a clown show press conference, CG. That was a joke press conference. The owner said like 5 different things that made no sense. So Eric, this is not, you're talking about the Raiders or the Bills? Because that was Oh, you reminds you. Okay, yeah. Bill got Gerard Mayo. Okay, I'll flip that around. Sorry, I read that wrong. My fault. Yes, I do think that's an accurate portrayal. Yes, you firing Belichick to go ahead and hire Gerard Mayo. I think Sean McDermott got a raw deal. I really do. I don't think the Bills know what they're doing. And I'm equally nervous about the Browns, and I'm equally nervous about the Raiders. I think both those teams really have a lot to be. We have to wonder right now as to what's going on. And I think all three of those teams might be regretting the decision to fire their head coaches instead of just sucking up another bad year and just rolling with it, just given where they are. Nobody wants the Browns job, at least what we can see. The Raiders are just sort of like hanging back, and they're going to roll the dice with a 30-year-old. Okay. And now you have Joe Brady getting elevated with Buffalo. I'm not saying Stefanski, Carroll, and Sean McDermott are the best coaches. I'm not saying that they are guys who didn't deserve to be fired, but it's always about who's coming next to me. If you're going to move the guy and fire the guy, who are you hiring to replace him? And as of right now, I don't think all three of those teams looked a little bit lost at the moment. Raiders and the Browns more so than the Bills. The Bills got their guy today in hiring Joe Brady, but the Raiders and the Browns, I don't know, man. We're about to enter the week before the Super Bowl, and you can't make any announcements during that week. You can't step on the toes of the NFL during that week. Has to happen and announce it. It is an interesting situation for sure. More in bonus time coming up for you guys who are live on YouTube. If you are watching on Sports Grid Television, thank you for being here. We're back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There will be a replay. You guys who are watching live, I'll explain the schedule for the next 3 days, but there will be a replay on Sports Grid TV on Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. If you guys are watching live, bonus time now. Okay. Yeah, when's Josh's contract up is a good question. No way. They're not trading Josh Allen. I think he's got 3 years left on his deal. About. Who doesn't want to live in Cleveland? Such a great city, especially the weather. Yeah. But I mean, look. I can't sell Cleveland. I was going to try to sell Cleveland. I can't really sell Cleveland. It's a hard division to play in. The ownership doesn't want to spend money. Myles Garrett's going to retire. Browns are a tough spot. Browns are in a tough spot. That's why no one's taking the job. I mean, you know, Browns are in a tough spot. I mean, look at the number of guys they interviewed. Jim Schwartz, by the way, if you're wondering who's going to get the job, Jim Schwartz, which is the same exact darn stupid thing the Bills just did. You're going to elevate somebody on the staff. So you fired your head coach and you're going to hire somebody on his staff. But it looks like Jim Schwartz probably is going to get the job, which is pretty comical because it's the same thing the Bills just did. It's like, what the hell are we doing? I don't understand. Like what are we doing? That's where we are. I don't understand it. But, you know, best of luck. I have been following the Raider. I was at UFC 324. I was asking so many people, like, who's getting the Raider job? Who's getting the Raider job? And the Davis Webb story still, I mean, the Davis Webb, the Broncos quarterback coach, this is pretty much after the Patriots beat the Broncos. It was Saturday night, so it was before the game was over. But people that I talked to were all like, Davis Webb gets the job if the Broncos lose. Well, the Broncos lost. So they liked Chris Shula, by the person I talked to. But look at the number of people they've interviewed. Clint and Clay Kubiak. Clint Kubiak, I think, is the guy, but he may not want to leave Seattle. So he's playing in the Super Bowl. He may not want to go anywhere, but Clint Kubiak could be the guy and probably is the guy, and that's why the Raiders haven't announced a new head coach yet. But Davis Webb, by people I talked to, Davis Webb also has a lot of support inside the building for the Raiders to go ahead and grab hold of him. So either Davis Webb or Clint Kubiak are probably going to be the head coach of the Raiders. But, you know, it's a lot of interviews. And they haven't hired anybody yet to be the new head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's make some bets. Time for Just the Picks, being brought to you by the Betting Pros Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. You guys can go and log on to bettingpros.com. Check out the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet, or you can download the Betting Pros app to go and look at the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet for tonight's NBA action, picks and plays you can make. College basketball, Michigan laying 10.5 against undefeated Nebraska. Watching this game, Michigan has not been covering against anybody, but it's because the numbers have been so high for Michigan. We're like 14, 15, 16 points they've been laying. Now they're winning by 10, 11, 12 points consistently, and Nebraska is undefeated. Nebraska is going to have a real tough time dealing with Michigan and their size and what they have been doing to teams. They have not just been beating teams, but they really have been taking teams behind woodsheds and beating them up. Nebraska is due. They've been due for a while. They are undefeated, and they are big dogs. I think this number says take the Huskers. When I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is begging us to bet on Nebraska. But KenPom has it as a 9-point win, 81-72. The number's 10.5. We're talking about a bucket difference here for this. I think it's Michigan's defense. They are second in defensive efficiency. They are second in defensive effective field goal percentage. They are number one in 2-point percentage. I just think this being at home at the Chrysler Center for Michigan, I think they just lock down on Nebraska and they don't let Nebraska score. I'll lay the 10.5 points. I know that that's not a great number, and that's a heavy number to lay in a game involving an undefeated opponent in Nebraska, and the fact that they have won every game, both home and away. I just think this game's exclusively on Peacock, by the way. There is no TV for this. This is just a streaming game for this tonight. But I'm going to lay the 10.5 points here with Michigan to get a W and cover against a undefeated Nebraska team. Huskers get the first L. You can parlay this with a Michigan and Creighton. If you want to go anti-Nebraska tonight, you can take the Jays are on the road against Marquette, who hasn't been very good at all. KenPom has it as a 3-point win for the Jays on the road, 78-75. The Jays got that overtime miracle win against Xavier in their last time out, and now they play a Marquette team who has just been god-awful. I mean, they're 7-14. They just lost to Butler. Their last home game, they beat Providence at home, but that snapped a 3-game losing streak. Like that, they just, in conference play, Marquette has been just awful. They're 2-8 straight up in conference play, 7-14 overall. So you could bet Michigan and Creighton moneyline parlay. I have bet that as well, but I've also laid 10.5 with Michigan for that. So you can jump in here on that. Unless Samford drops 30 like he did against Illinois, Nebraska has no chance. Probably true. Little Rock, I like the Nebraska game. Would be a tough defensive game under. Sure. Michigan State should be good, and Creighton should cover. Have a great day. Appreciate you too. Michigan State. I didn't look at the Michigan State game. Or did you was that a typo, or is you really saying Michigan State? I had not even glanced at Michigan State tonight. Where is they're playing Rutgers tonight? 70. Wow. So what's that number? I think it must be huge. KenPom has it 75-59, 16-point win for KenPom on KenPom for that. So, but yeah, I think Michigan does win and Michigan covers. But again, you want a little extra. I think a Creighton Michigan moneyline parlay isn't bad. I'm going to go against all the numbers here with Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and I'm going to play the over. I haven't seen about Embiid yet as to whether or not he's playing or not, but these two teams have been dead unders in the NBA, but this number is low. 219.5 for an NBA game is low. I think we're going over 219. I don't think it's going to fly over 219.5, but I think Milwaukee and Philadelphia, this number is too low. I mean, we're talking about most games are in the mid 220s for Milwaukee and Philadelphia, sometimes in the low 230s from a total perspective. So I think because these teams have been such unders and killer unders, the books keep on dropping numbers down, and people keep on getting betting under. If you want to go with the trends, bet the under in this game. I'm going to buck the trend and go against it. I'm going to bet the over for Philadelphia and Milwaukee tonight. We're going to go over 219.5 1.5 for tonight. Time for the news of the industry. So I asked this question of Adam Bjorn earlier in the show, and I want to kind of pick it up and dovetail off of it, because there are some people who are pretty adamant that the NFL is going to be down this year from a betting perspective because of the Patriots and the Seahawks. And that would continue a trend of NFL bettors wagering less than expected at regulated sports books. This is according to our friends at ingame.com. Optimove issued a report that found parlays remained popular, but live betting was not the boon that operators had anticipated. Adam has seen tremendous live betting at BetCris Arizona, so they don't really factor into this. But pre-game betting versus live betting for planned versus actual, the planned was for 48% of all the handle to come in on pre-game betting. It's actually been 50%. There was 31% in-game betting that they anticipated this year during the NFL as they planned on live markets. Only 17% actually came in. So if you average that out, 21% for both in-game and pre-game betting, 33% came in both. This is according to a survey from Optimove. Findings from observed behavior of nearly 4 million bettors, which is a big number, and using preseason and follow-up surveys of 425 others, which is a bit low, underscore a potentially troubling trend for the domestic sports betting industry, specifically the nation's most popular league, failed to generate the expected traction for live betting, which is considered a long-term profit generator for sportsbooks. Said the Optimove report, quote, NFL bettors are directly honest about how they want to bet, but consistently overestimate how often, how live, and how much they'll wager, especially once the season begins. The study by Optimove, an engagement solution firm for the iGaming and sports betting operators, included data from the beginning of the season through the wild card round. A full 75% said they bet in the regular season, almost exactly matching preseason interest, according to the study. Just 15% bet during the first round of the playoffs, although 48% said that they would. Low stake, high frequency bets dominated. The default stake band was defined between $11 and $50, with higher increments significantly rarer. That may change deeper in the postseason, according to the report, based on how betting typically behaves as stakes rise. We expect a concentration effect, fewer days, bigger moments. One noteworthy observation, parlay bettors bet parlays. Shocker. There were 72% of those who said that they would bet parlays, and 70% did. Here's the thing, and why this should not be shocking to anybody on this. It's not prediction markets that are cutting into the NFL handle. That's been the big worry, right? The prediction market, the Kalshis of the world, they're not cutting into the handle. People are betting on it. They're using it. They're using the prediction markets. There's a lot of money there to be had, but it's not impacting the legal sports book. It's not impacting the handle for the legal sports books. What is impacting this, and this is something that Dave Sherapan and I talked for hours about. In-game wagering is hard. It's not easy. And I've told you guys, Dave and I used to sit, and because Dave knew so much and he was such a, the depth of knowledge he had in terms of how the algorithm was going to treat the game and how he was able to watch a game and watch the number, and we would go back and forth, and I'd have multiple books open, and we'd be watching the different algorithms, and we'd be watching the game and the way the game was being played versus how the numbers were being impacted. And it happened in hockey all the time, where you could be watching the game, watching the number, and yet the total was being all over the place because the algorithm just was playing the math, and it wasn't watching the game. It was simply watching the math. And so you had chances before different minute markers, if you will, as to when the number got hit, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever was left in the period, where you would see the algorithm, it would hit that minute mark, and all of a sudden it would flip and it would drop down. So you'd have a chance to bet different things by you would watch that number, and Dave would say to me, okay, now watch that number. When it gets to 10 minutes left in the period, that number is going to go to 2.5, bet the over, because the computer is going to sense that there's only half of the period left, even though we're watching this game and we know that this is going to be wide open because the offenses are going back and forth and we understand pace of play. The algorithm doesn't. So those are the things that we would do. 99.99999% of people in America don't have somebody like that who's sitting there showing them how this works. And so the public is being told, hey, betting live is so fun, right? All the reads. Live in-game wagering is great. Live in-game wagering, okay, is fucking hard. Like, it's hard. It's not easy. I think the majority of people who do it consistently are like me, who do it to get out of bets, not to make money, to save money. I've said this for years. I don't attack the in-game market for anything except the oh shit moment. That's what gets me to open the app and to bet more consistently, is because I'm afraid of losing. Like, I know I'm on the over, right? Or I'm on the dog, and like it's coming down to the wire, and I'm like, shit, I got to get out of this bet. And so I use live wagering to save my ass. Because in Vegas, there's one book now in Vegas. Caesars William Hill has now opened up the cash out feature. We haven't had that in Vegas. I've been here 10 years. We haven't had the cash out feature here in Vegas. Now we do with one book. So because of that, I would use live betting to get my ass out of a fire and be like, oh no. And I'd pull myself out. So the idea of going in there and being able to attack the algorithm, why is it not working for the books? Because no one's winning. Nobody understands it. It's a foreign language to the average person. And so that causes problems for anybody who is trying to attack the betting market, because you do hit parlays once in a while, right? Every couple of weeks, you'll hit a big parlay and you're going run and tell your boys, 5-leg money line parlay, $10 that paid 200, blah, 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 right? Well, those are the things that people talk about. Those are the things that people are doing. They're not betting straight. And frankly, I will take a little credit for this because I'm in the betting space. I'm in the content space. So take a podcast like The Daily Juice, or a podcast like other pick podcasts that are out there, Sportsline or whatever, that are out there giving. We don't give live bets. We give you actionable information pregame to bet the games pregame. So the more that the public relies on the content world, which is becoming more and more significant because we have the time to do the work, and there are more and more free podcasts. When I started The Daily Juice, there was nobody doing what I was doing. I was a unicorn in 2020, where I gave a daily podcast every single day. There were picks in your inbox. Now there's, I don't know, 10 on top of my head that do what I do. So like, this is just where the public is accustomed to going and saying, all right, part of my handicap is to watch what Matt thinks. And if Matt's hot, okay, good, I'm going to follow. If Matt's cold, I'm going to fade. Or if I hear something that Matt says I wasn't aware of, well, that might change my opinion. That might change my direction, which is all normal, right? It's just, we're all guessing. We're all betting on human behavior. We just want the most amount of information at our disposal to make the best decision we can. So live betting isn't something you can research. It's right now. Hey, do you want -3? Right now. And sometimes it changes before the bet even could be accepted, right? Line has changed. Do you accept the wager? Do you accept the new number? Right? So that's a problem. Like, that gets problematic for people. And, this is true. My experience, I have not been able to get a live bet accepted. Yes, that's true. 100%. So that's, Vinny, the boosts I am getting are for live betting, only the boosts, because they're trying to get people to bet more live. They want people to bet more live. Yeah, Joel, hating the cash out feature. I mean, I'm just not used to it. I don't have it. I know people here in Vegas who have now advocated it in Vegas from the golf betting perspective, because there's so much time between shots that if you have, pre-flop 30-1, 40-1, 50-1, these big numbers, and like after the third round and then the fourth round begins, and maybe there's, your guy doesn't look good, or maybe the putter is not really clicking for him, or whatever it might be, that you can take the cash out feature for your future wagers. And even though it would have paid out more later, you can just constantly guarantee profit with the cash out feature betting golf. I think that's a very interesting way of approaching that with the cash out feature. I haven't done that yet, but cash out features is new. Is new. Rudy, how are you? Thank you for what you do, Matt. Keep it up, my brother. Also, note on live betting, half the time the games be a couple. I don't know what that means, but golf, but golf you like. Yeah, golf you can cash out. I mean, those are just things you can do with the cash out feature that is different than other times in sports gambling. So it makes perfect sense as to why the sports books would be struggling to get people to bet, to get people to want to be a part of the live wagering. It clicks. It makes sense that would happen. So just FYI, I think that squares to me that live betting is not nearly as profitable or as actionable with the public as pregame. And pregame is higher than expected from betting. And again, we've said this for, I don't know, the show now is approaching year 5. It all started with straight bets. Pre-game straight bets. It's always going to be there, regardless of what we do with parlays and in-game wagering and prediction markets and everything else. It'll always come back. It's like AM radio. AM radio started mass media broadcast communication. AM radio will end mass media broadcast communication. We started sports betting with sides, single leg sides. It'll one day end with single leg sides. They will always be there. They will always be there. So, time for my favorite thing about today. All right, for me, it's go time. It's get ready time, because I've got to get not just this show up and produced, tomorrow's show, Thursday's show, and Friday's show. It's going to be different. We've never done this before, so I'm very curious about how it's going to go. I will put up, and Sonic is helping me do this, there's going to be a quasi-new show, okay? Next 3 days will be a mixture of new content and old content, best ofs and new content. So you're going to get some different things. Like we're going to replay that conversation that I did with Adam Bjorn. We're going to replay that coming up on Thursday. That's traditionally the day for Bet Chris Arizona. We're going to replay that conversation on Thursday, because some people tune into Thursday's show just to see Adam. So we're going to do that. We're going to take different segments through last week and this week, and we're going to splice it all together. 3 shows, 1 hour each. It will be replayed on Sports Grid. You're going to get that. But I'm going to be taping some segments in New Orleans. I will be placing it together, piecing it together, trying to find different segments and whatnot. So I'm really excited to see how it goes. I hope it goes well. I don't know if it's going to go well. I am crossing my fingers that this thing will launch at 1:00 as a video on demand that you guys can have a live chat with and have conversations. There will be new topics. There will be new bets. There will be new things that I will talk about. We really haven't gotten into hockey wagering all that much. I want to try to do some segments on hockey. So, and who knows? I'm with my entire Betting Pros team in New Orleans. So I might be grabbing one of them and having them come on up and have a conversation and do an interview with them. I don't know. So we'll see how it all goes down. So next 3 days, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. We're going to try it out and see how it goes. Okay. Crossing my fingers that it all works out the way it should, coming up for tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern time, when the new episode of BVB will hit. It'll be a mixture of new and old for us coming up here. So excited to get that rolling, but you will get content, new and old content, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll be in New Orleans. If anything crazy breaks, I'll jump on the Discord channel. We can have a Discord channel chat in there. But then I'm back on Saturday from New Orleans, we head to San Francisco for Media Row for the Super Bowl coming up on Wednesday. So Wednesday flight to Saturday, Wednesday flight to Friday. It's going to be a really crazy couple of weeks. Happy to have you guys along for the ride. Thank you to BetChris Arizona and Adam Bjorn for stopping in. We're back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for a new episode of BB